All right, all right. Good morning. I am an independent prover with our company Pruvit. My name is Sylvia Athey, and this morning we are interviewing the beautiful Katie Rollins. Katie, I have unmuted you. Let's go ahead and get started on this. Katie as well is an independent prover with our awesome company. Katie, it has literally been a fraction of time, like such a short journey so far. You started with the company in March, correct?
Yes, correct. It was March 20th.
March. Okay, so almost April. So you technically started almost April. I remember literally. Well, before we go there, let's back up a bit. So you started in March. You are currently a rank 9. I know you're on your way to 10. You're super close to 10. But you're a rank 9, and you have had tremendous accomplishments thus far in the company. Yes.
It's been pretty life-altering stuff, yes.
I just love it. I'm so excited for you guys to hear her story today. So, let's back up a bit, because I know that when you joined, I was still kind of fresh and new. I had been like a couple months into the company, and I was like, okay, this chick, like, she's blowing up my back office. This is super amazing. Like, and I was creeping your page. I'm like, who is this person? And I was so intrigued. I was like, oh my God, she's doing these lives. She has the cutest little boy. Like, but I had no idea kind of the extent to your story. I was just like, wow, she looks like she has it all together. So let's start off by just kind of giving the viewers here today, an idea of like, what was your life like before Pruvit?
Sure. So I'm going to start off by saying I'm super uncomfortable right now, guys. I don't know why. I'm just kind of sweaty. Like this whole, like, I don't know. I'm still trying to get used to like the whole, like, so everything's been great and successful, because it has. It's been incredible, but I'm also really weird about recognition. It makes me red and sweaty. So I'm sorry if I'm just really kind of awkward through this whole thing right now, but that is who I am. So let me see here. My life before Pruvit, I can take it to a year ago right now, actually. It's a really weird time of year for me. I was working full time at a food service equipment supplier. So any conference center you've ever been to, hotel, stadium, stuff like that, all of those kitchens don't just magically appear. Someone actually does the whole design layout for it, gets all the very, very fancy industrial, equipment on order. And my job at this time last year was I was co-managing the department that handled all the contracts for that. So like $1 million contracts, multiple ones going on at any point in time during the month. And I was not hired for that position. However, by that time last year, I had been kind of absorbed into that position, and it was incredibly high stress. I mean, I was having full-blown panic attacks every single day in the bathroom, and I'll kind of backtrack a little bit on that. Summer of last year, I had lost my mother. And then 6 weeks later, my best friend, who is actually the manager of that department that I worked in, he was 2 years older than me, he passed away unexpectedly overnight. Literally, he was there one day and then just didn't come to work the next day. And it had turned out they couldn't really give a clear what happened in the autopsy, but his heart basically stopped working. He was pre-diabetic. He had gained a lot of weight in a really short amount of time because our job was really stressful. So when he passed, this was like a family-owned business. This was not a huge thing. So, we had a close-knit 20 of us that worked at this company, and his role, I became his role because I worked side by side with him. So I was hired as someone who was making copies, and then over my time with this company, ended up having to take over a ridiculous amount of stress. So on top of the fact that I had been mourning my mom, and then mourning literally one of my closest friends who I was now at his desk doing his job every day. I had pretty much my time, my life at this time last year is unrecognizable. It was incredibly dark. It was not an actual life. Sylvia, am I kind of like going in the right direction here? Do you want me to just kind of keep going with this? Okay.
Yeah,
So
you're doing great.
yeah. So by this time last year, I was so into a state of not being able to function day to day that I had gone to a doctor to kind of help me get through it. And their recommendation, as majority of us know, was antidepressants and medication, because that's what people need to get through hard times. And I did. You know, basically the psychologist I went to, he pretty much diagnosed me with PTSD and what went down in such a short amount of time. So that was going on that side at that time last year. And on top of this, my story is pretty open now for some of you that follow me, but I am also someone who for 20 years have been really kind of insecure. I was always heavier. I, for some reason, was just always really uncomfortable in like social situations, but I found that when I drank, I was a completely great, amazing, fun, social person. So really from 23 up until 35, my sole way of fitting into social situations was drinking. So that was what I've been doing and leaning on for an incredible amount of time. But so now when you compile grief into one of the highest stressful times of my life, I mean, the level of drinking that I had already been abusing paired with that turned into it was the absolute scariest time in my life, because the only thing I could do to get by day to day was take the antidepressants to get out of bed, get through work, literally get through work between the panic attacks, between just popping Zoloft like it was mints just to keep going, just to get a little bit more like perk to go and get, with the stress. And then I would get home and try to keep myself together to like, feed people and get my kid to bed or like help them with homework. And then I would just go to bed, or I would get blackout drunk. And that was my life. This time last year, that was my life.
Tell us how like all of this was building, because I know that when like you first joined, this stuff was all really fresh. And like you're saying, you were openly, talking about these things. So how, as this stuff was building, like how did you find Pruvit?
So all of this had to happen for me to find Pruvit, actually. It's pretty, like, I can actually look back at this entire story and see the exact defining things that happened, down to Adam dying, down to people that sent me a friend request 4 years ago for absolutely no reason, like how this all ended up being. But by February, I had drank myself into just such a ridiculous I was just a shell of a human walking around, and I couldn't do it anymore because I was putting my kid in the car and driving places, not remembering. And I just kind of like came to one day, it was like Saturday at 8 p.m. and I had already gone food shopping with Charles after drinking 2 bottles of wine. And I was just like, this is it. So you have to stop drinking. So February 5th, I had stopped drinking. And at that time, as I said, I've always been heavier, and I was doing, I was working out. So now it's a full month. I had been working out every day. I had not drank anything. I was really eating clean. I was doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. I've been doing that home workout program, Insanity, and I did it for a month, everything to a T. My body looked no different. I felt no different. I lost no weight, and I was just pissed. So a good friend of mine is a nutritionist, actually. I say a good friend, it's someone that I was good friends with on Facebook, basically. And I reached out to her, and she had told me about the keto diet a year before. And she was like, yeah, keto diet's great. You're going to lose all this, feel better. Just cut all your carbs out, no sugar, and like this and that, and you'll be good. And I was like, girl, I'm drinking like a mag of wine a night. There's no world where I'm going to be able to do that. But So then this time in February of this year, I had reached out to her, or I'm sorry, by this time it was March of this year, I had reached out to her because I was just like, listen, I'm not drinking anymore. What was that diet that you had told me about to do? And she's like, keto diet. She's like, but she's like, there's something out. Like I read about something, it was in a journal. There's such a thing, they're called, and she said exogenous ketones. I remember being like, that's like Chinese. The word made no sense to me, but she's like, when you drink it, your body will go into ketosis. I don't know who makes them. I don't remember the name of the company or anything like that. Just go find it. Sure, you can find it. So I went on Google, finally figured out, got it nailed down to Pruvit made it. I went on the Pruvit page. I watched the whole website. Like I watched the campfire video. I knew the price of every single thing. And then I went on Facebook because I was like, I got to be able to find people who are drinking this. And when I went on the search bar, I typed in Pruvit and Christina popped up. That was it. Christina, I remember sending me a friend request for, I have no idea why, about 3 years before. I literally remember seeing her friend request. I accepted it because I was like, damn, I don't know who this girl is, but she's got it together. Like it's Christina, you can tell. Like, so I accepted her friend request years before, because we had both worked for a company in the same company at some time years before. So when she popped up in the search bar, I sent her a message. I'm like, what are these things? Like, I heard about them and you are the one, I guess, who I'm friends with who has them. Like, what are they? And literally that was how I found Pruvit and got ketones from her. And rest is history. No one sent me a message. Where were you all?
So what was your, and it's crazy that like literally this is why it's so important for number one, everybody who's listening today, like be hashtagging Pruvit, be hashtagging ketones, because this is a small, fragment of time right now. The company is very new. It's very small. But if you think about a year or two from now, how many people are going to be looking up ketones? How many people are going to be looking up, Pruvit or exogenous ketones? Like we are kind of the founding people of this. So everybody listening today, like this is such an exciting time because nobody knows about it. I mean, she was looking it up on Facebook and one person, she found that was kind of sharing about this. So this is just kind of a little tip for you all. Like, it is our job to be a part of sharing that, because this company is just amazing and it's only going to explode. But let's talk just for, a moment, Katie, like what was your financial situation like? We know a little bit about your personal situation. Things were super stressful. And you were going through some really hard times, but what was your financial situation like? You were working your butt off. How was that, looking like? Were you rolling around in an amazing car? Did you have life together? Were you in your dream home? Like,
yeah, no, I was not any of those things. Someone had to die for me to get a raise at the company I was planning on retiring at. And it was an insulting amount. And that's the thing is like, it just is what it is. I had become so accustomed to that mindset of it just is what it is that I was like, we're just going to make do. Like we're going to survive off. I mean, it was $700 a week, I think. And I thought I was like bawling. I mean, I was like, we got this, like, I'm good. And so we have just, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we lived life. It's not to say that we were in a life of debt. We weren't, because Chuck and I were terrified of money. I'll be point blank, terrified of it until we had Charles. Like I was always kind of like, okay, I had a good relationship with money. I felt okay about it. But then up until him, I was just like, we got to just hang on to any penny we ever get. And there was very, very rarely anything extra, but a very like clear thing that I was stressed out about money all the time. But the story that I remember being clear as day, and I love that this happened right before Pruvit happened. My car was a Chevy Malibu. I had been driving this 2-door Ford Focus until we had Charles. And then my dad literally was just like, you can't even get the car seat in and out of there. I'm like, Dad, it's my car though. It's all I have. And we had traded cars. So he gave me a Chevy Malibu because it was a 4-door. And this thing, I was driving it into the ground, had a huge hole in the front bumper because, long story short, I rear-ended Chuck's truck one day on accident. And that was in like 2010. I was never going to get that thing replaced. I had no money. But the car had started to get wear and tear, and I had to bring it to the shop, and it was $1,000 to repair it. And I had to pull out my credit card, and that card had a balance on it already. And I remember like I was 35 and I was at this shop, and I was like pulling out my card, and I just started like crying. Because I was like, I don't have the money to pay this. I know that I don't. And at that point, like everything kind of hit. I'm like, I have worked hard. I mean, I've had, if not one job, 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, sometimes 4 with bartending on top of it. My entire life since I was 13, I have worked my ass off. And it comes down to this point, I'm 35 and I don't have money to fix my freaking car. It's $1,000. How do I not have my life together? That this is seriously like something that's going to make me sick until I'm able to like sell something or do whatever we have to do to pay this off. Our financial situation was not good. We couldn't plan for anything. We had enough to live. And I was very grateful for that. But there was no like dreaming. There was no like, we're not going to plan vacation. Like we got married on a front porch, we can't have a wedding. We couldn't save anything for Charles. Like we couldn't pay our house off early. Like we were just going to be just living, existing to work, to pay whatever we had to pay just to get by. And it felt terrible. Like it was a really defeating feeling. So
essentially what you're saying is like, you didn't have all your crap together before you started Pruvit. You didn't have this amazing, phenomenal life before you started Pruvit. You actually were at the lowest of the lowest in every aspect, financially, personally, emotionally, like every way possible when this came into your life. So how has your life like changed? How has this level of, I guess, success, and let's just be real and raw, because I think a lot of people think like, oh my God, these people are doing so amazing and it's so amazing. It is amazing. However, it comes with its own challenges too. Like I know you and I have, personally talked about that stuff as well. But let's talk about like the good, like how has this level of success changed your circumstances financially, personally? And then let's also talk about still like there's challenges that come with that, because as people here are viewing this, it's not like just one day that you arrive and then magically everything is better. Like you still have your own challenges. So for those of you on here who are, working towards this level of success, I want you all to get a piece right now to take away with you, that you can walk away from here and know that like get yourself prepared, get yourself in knowing that like this is amazing and phenomenal, and be prepared to step into it because you could do great things from this place. So let's talk about that, Katie.
Okay. So and real quick, I shared this on the call earlier in the week, but I was waiting for my ketones in the mail, and I was already asking Christina about the business side of this because for some reason, like something in my brain, I remember I ordered them from her and I was laying in bed that night and I was so excited for them to come because I was literally like, if I get any of the benefits from that campfire video, like I'm in, that's it. And I was laying there and I was like, why couldn't I find this? Why was this so hard to find it? Like, this is going to be such a big thing. I can feel it. And I'm like, maybe this is something that I can do. And when I approached her about it, I was already all in, and it was like, I drank it and I just like lit up and I was like, that's it, let's go. So I started talking about it. I started sharing it, and I'm really expressive when I'm really loving something. Like if I go to a restaurant and I have a great experience, like I'm going to tell everyone about it. I love that. I love getting people excited about things I'm excited about. That's just my nature. And so that's what I started doing. And Facebook responded. They knew my story. They knew my struggles. I was 6 weeks sober. And I had just shared about, starting sobriety about a week before that. Like, and it's not, I didn't know that I was going to be doing this the week later. I hadn't even had that conversation yet. But so things went fast. A lot of people were curious about what I was doing. A lot of people saw this from a business perspective like I did without me asking. Like a lot of people were curious about it. And, I just started to make money. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but I was just like, this stuff would just show up in the cloud. And I would just sit there, like, it didn't matter where I was. I would keep seeing more stuff. And like, I would be leaving Christina voice messages crying because I thought that something was wrong, that there was a glitch. And I kept getting so excited because I'm just like, dude, there's like money in here. Like, this would have taken me 2 weeks to make. And I think this was just in the last couple of days. And she's like, yeah, girl, like you're hitting daily pay now. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And she's like, just keep going, like do what you're doing. And then I've got Sylvia, who is a stranger, showing up into my inbox, literally like, girl, I don't know who you are, but like, I see you in my leaderboard and I see you like moving volume, like just keep going. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then I get Brian James reaching out. And I mean, like, Brian, y'all know who the hell he is when he shows up. But I wasn't even on huddle calls yet. I didn't know what was going on. But so things went exactly what I was hoping that would happen. And again, I'm going to be point blank with you. When I saw what this was, guys, like, I wasn't, okay, well, I'm going to sit back and hope that this keeps going like the pace it's going. I got to freaking work once I started to really see what this could be. And I was still working full time. I didn't care though. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was responding to messages.
I remember that. Like,
I mean, like, Sylvia would still be up working at
night. Her job yet? Like, what is she doing?
I mean, and I was like fresh on ketones too. So I was like 3 hours of sleep was more than enough for me. So I would be staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning, easy, sometimes 1:30, sometimes 2, because the West Coast was still awake. And I would be doing whatever, and then I would go to sleep for a little bit, and then I would wake up at 4:30 sometimes, and then do all my work before I had to mom, and then before I had to go to work. And then on my lunch break, or sometimes in work at my desk, or, hiding literally my phone under my desk, just messaging people. But I worked my butt off. And I mean, I still work my butt off, but that first like 2 months, I saw what it was and I was like, this is my out. This is how I get to change everything. My job that was like sucking my soul, I knew it. I was like, if I just keep going, I wanted to get to a point where my job was just completely in the way. And I'm like, once it's completely in the way, yes.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I want you to touch on, like, did you ever believe that this level of success was like a possibility for you? And like kind of walking into that, like, you started to see these numbers change in your back office. You were like, what the heck? And then like, before you knew it, I mean, because you promoted very quickly. Like, I don't even know, how long did it take you to go rank 7? It was really fast.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't keep up
either.
Yeah.
I just literally was like, where did this person come from? Like, this is crazy. But like, how did you feel going through all of that? Because I just like, when you saw you're standing there, all of this stuff is happening. Like, how did you, number one, how did you handle that pressure? Number two, like, how did it feel to be in that place where you're like, wow, my life is literally changing, like right before my eyes?
Luckily, it happened so fast, I didn't really have too much time to think about it or respond. It just kept going. Looking back at it now, thinking about if I thought I could do it, I really didn't think I could do it, honestly. But I also didn't, I wasn't, who says it? I think Kendra says it. Someone says it where they're like, if you need to borrow belief from someone else, like borrow it. But I swear to God, I was like Sasha Fierce. And like in my head, there's Beyonce and Sasha Fierce on stage. In my head, I was just like, every time I was like freaking out about what was going on, I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, someone else just signed up. You don't know what you're doing though. I was just like, no, you know what you're doing. And then I would hear like Brian in my head, like, just make a mess. I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to just keep going and keep talking about this. And every time someone else wants to know about it, I'm going to just be super excited. Sharon, thank you.
I love that you say like you didn't have time to think about it, because I think that every single person on here thinks too much about they think too much about it, It's like, oh my God, I don't think I can be that successful. Oh my God, like it's never going to happen for me. And oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And like you literally talk yourself out of being successful. And I think kind of one of the unique things is like when you have a little glimmer in your heart of wanting something more in your life, and that little tiny glimmer is like you want that so bad, you are creating that. And even though Katie did not have her crap together, even though she was a wreck of a place, somewhere along the way, she had this little tiny glimmer of hope, like in her heart, that was like, I want for a better life. And I know that it's possible for me. And like, I know, that's kind of how I felt. Like I had been working, but my life was a wreck. And then I guess my whole point with that is like, stop thinking, people. Stop thinking and just focus on like, what do you want out of life? What do you want? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? Like you have to hold on to that tiny little image and picture in your mind of knowing, no matter where your circumstances are right now, that life can be better. Like, would you agree with that, Katie?
I would 1000% agree. And that's the thing, is I didn't think I could do it, but at the same point, if I truly didn't have that like something in the back of my head seeing it, like it's like my subconscious saw it, I'm telling you. Because there were times I'm serious, like especially with the year that I had before that, like it was like, I know everyone was like 2016 was a bad year. Like it really was. And I really thought that kind of was just the way things were going to go. So it was like, all I needed was just a little bit of belief, hope in something. And once I got it, I was just like, that's it. Like now this is all I'm going to believe in. And I swear, like all I started to believe in was just Pruvit, and the fact that if I just didn't let off the gas, if I didn't stop thinking, if I didn't like stop and really start thinking about what I was doing, like I would be fine. And I know Sylvia can attest to this. The only time that my business has slowed down really has been when I stopped and I just started to get really micromanaging and trying to figure out a system and all this. And that's when like everything has slowed down. And I'm like, oh, what am I doing? That's why, because I got too much in my head and I got away from phase one, and I just stopped doing the things I was doing in the beginning, which is just manically sharing this with people unapologetically. And
that's powerful. That really is powerful right there, because it's so easy, I think, for people to look at other people and think they must have been doing XYZ. They must have been doing this. They must have been doing that. They must have been, sending out 500 messages. Like, I think when you're just in that zone, like, it's not that you're sending out all these messages, or it's not that you have your crap together. You're just sharing from your heart. You're just sharing about this thing that is changing your life. And that passion and that excitement is what's causing other people to come to you, So if y'all aren't excited and passionate about what you're doing, like, number one, go back to that place, go back to that place of being passionate and excited. Take a break if you need to. If you need to take a break for like 4 or 5 days and get yourself like, why are you doing this? Because there's not we have DMOs and those are in place to help you succeed, but it comes from here. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it comes from here. If you talk to anybody, it comes from here. It comes from this place of like, you had to, you needed this. You were at the lowest place in your life, and life was either going to go down further, and that would have been a total wreck, or it was going to start to climb up, So,
and honestly, like my life was in complete, like, and just, it was upside down. I didn't know what was going on. I was not drinking anymore. So I was like literally every day I would wake up and like, I don't even know who I am or what's going on. But like, I just got a little bit of it and I was like, this is all I'm going to focus on. And it just, it's hard to explain, but I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't know. I'm with you on that though. I just feel like I just had to keep reminding myself why I was doing it, because it was hard, by the way. Don't, like, this sounds like I was like, yeah, it went so fast. Like, it wasn't a glorious fast. You guys don't know what it was like when sale days, the entire website went down. You don't know what that's like when you bring in 20 promoters that week and then they can't send sale websites to anyone. So then I had everyone screaming at me in the exact same week. So it was like really stressful. But I just needed to focus on one thing. And I was like, I just need to leave that job. Pick it. If you want to buy a house, that's what you're going to focus on. Like, I just picked something that I could focus on that would just keep me excited. Like, you don't have to have a dramatic year or past or anything like that to still be excited.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what's your number one tip for people who are going to watch this in the future, and people who are on here right now that maybe, feel like they're stuck, or maybe they're relating to your story? Like, what is your number one tip where they can just take where their circumstances are and just, you know, go all in?
I have like 2 tips, because one's kind of business and one's just mindset. Like, mindset wise, I do the exact same thing every morning. I listen to YouTube videos, like motivational YouTube videos. I know that like we tell you guys to do, and that might not be your jam, but make it your jam. It's not something that I was like super into when I first started, but there's something about just hearing repetitive someone saying to you, it goes back to that, like, if you don't have the belief, you need someone else to give you that belief until you have the belief. So when I listen to like a 6-minute video or like 20-minute video, if I'm in the car, of someone just constantly saying like, you want this so bad, you can take it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you right now, like I get places, like I get chills when I hear it. The same ones I listen to over and over again. I don't care. I could probably recite them to you. I'm not going to, but when I first started doing that, like there would be times I'd be crying. I'm like, I can't do it. But like, I'm going to. And then there's something that happens where like it's not just words being said to you anymore. Like, it's just part of who you are. Like, you just start, that's how I respond. When a message comes in that's stressful, or, you know, like we all get them, guys. We get people that give you negativity in a message, or you get someone that is on your team that gives you, like, when their message pops up, like, let's be honest, you're like, oh God, here we go. Those messages, I'm like, bring it. Like, those things are building your business. Those things are sharpening you, and they're making you stronger. And they're just going to, like, every time you can handle more of those things, it just means that you're getting that much better at what you're doing. So like, look at these things as these challenges as positives that are sharpening you. But a lot of those things I didn't understand that weren't for people on YouTube yelling them at me every single day. So that would be my number 1 mindset tip. And then business tip is, you just have to, if you're doing this social media, if you're doing this in a social environment, whatever the case may be, if you are trying to do this as someone else, you are literally never going to take off with this. If you are trying to put a post together that is exactly what someone else did, and it's not your words and it's not your vibe or your excitement, people can see it, your business won't take off. It's a marketing thing. You can't be other people. So once you start being unapologetically exactly how you are in social media or in events that you put together, like Michelle and I got together yesterday, we did a mixer. There was no adorable like table toppers and stuff like that. Like, it was just, it's who Michelle and I are. We're just like, hey, we're here. We got little cups. Like, just try this. And people, that's what people respond to. That's how our personalities are. If I went full blown Pinterest, 1, it would have been terrible. And 2, it wouldn't have even felt like me. I feel like energy people really taken from you. Sorry.
I love it. Okay. So what are your goals for the future with Pruvit?
Oh, with Pruvit? All right. So everyone has like rank goals. I'm going to be honest. Sylvia knows, Christina knows. Ranks get me hung up. For some reason, the ranks in my head, when I start really focusing on the actual rank, things don't go in the direction I'm going anymore. So my goals are always based off of the people in my team. Always. I want to get 6 more COCs this month. I want to get this person, this person, this person, this person to rank 7. Like, because I know that that focus, if I'm just like, okay, how do I build? How do I help them? How do I guide them? Not only is that going to naturally grow the business for me, but it's also going to be something that they're also going to start duplicating for their team. And then everyone is just going to complete push forward. So whatever rank that ends up looking like when I have, God, I mean, the last vision board that I made had 7 COCs on it for that month. My goals with Pruvit, I guess, are, it's hard to say that. I have like life goals that I want to hit. I just know Pruvit will come with it, but I want you to go to a charged event.
What do you see that's now possible because of Pruvit? And like that you want to do in your future, that you're striving for, that you're like, I know that this is the vehicle that's going to allow me to do ...
Yeah. We live in a tiny little house in North Carolina that we really need to not live in anymore. It's too much. And we are looking at property when we are in Louisville in 2 weeks. We found like this huge ranch and like all this property, and my husband loves to hunt and fish, and I just want them all to go outside and stop being inside. So it's like perfect. And we can actually dream about things like that now. So we're going to start looking into just more space for us because we need that. And I have a couple like franchise things that I would like to be doing. Again, these are just like things that kind of get me excited. In terms of Pruvit land, like I want to be able to run charged events. I want to be able to, I really, really like respect the people in our company that teach. I feel like they do it for an entire company in the exact same mindset that I have, which is like, it'll benefit me at some point, I'm sure, but I really, truly like teaching and getting other people passionate and excited about this. So that's where I would like to be in Pruvit land as well. Financial wise, we're making some big life decisions soon, and we're gonna have a wedding, which will be amazing. But we
You're
just want
an actual wedding,
yeah.
like not on the front porch.
No, not on a front porch. Well, what our plan is, this is part of it, is when we do have a big place and it's got a bunch of land, like we can have the whole thing there, because again, I'm not gonna do like the let's deck out a hotel and do all, it's just not who I am. Sorry. Is that me? Decline. Sorry. Yeah, that's on the agenda.
I love it so much. Okay, so is there, anything that we like haven't touched on that you are like, I really want people to know this about me, or this about whatever, your journey, like
kind of, I don't know. I think that you just really have to not look at other people and compare yourself to anyone else. This is like the most bizarre, weirdest experience in my entire life. I'm going to be honest, like this last 9 months, some days I wake up and I'm just like, I don't even know. Like I'm going to just open my phone today and I don't know what's going to be coming at me today. It's just crazy town. But I think that,
so you don't have to have it all together, number one.
You don't have to have it all together, but I guess I was going to tie that into, you don't have to have it all together, but the second you start, like you can look at other people for motivation, the second your mind starts going into looking at them as like, well, yeah, why don't I have that? They have that because X, Y, Z. Every time I've done that, which I do it, guys, like I think it's human nature. For anyone who says that they never do that, they're full of it. They're lying to you. Just be self-aware and catch yourself on it. Like if you've been to any events and they do the blame, shame, and justify, like every time my head goes there, I get off track with where I'm supposed to be, and it happens. And then I see it reflect in my business. I see it reflect in my relationships with people. You just have to, you're allowed to make those mistakes, but you have to have your Raz all the way up, and you have to know that you're doing it and catch yourself on it, call yourself out on it, and then do whatever you need to do to get your head back in the right place. And again, that's where I go to YouTube a lot. I listen to a ton of personal development, but just having that awareness and not trying to pretend that you're not going in that direction.
I want to ask real quick, because I think that this is important, because your life, like you were expressing, and I just think that it's important for people to really understand, like, you don't have to have yourself together to have a better life. You can, no matter where you are right now, that doesn't matter. You might be, struggling to make your mortgage. You might be struggling to like know where that next like meal is going to come from, living paycheck to paycheck. Your mindset could be total utter crap, because that's the reality. We all have things, right? But we can go from that to amazing, phenomenal things. It just comes from, wanting more and doing that work. So I just want to ask, like, even though you had those, like you were, like you said, you were alcoholic, you were, doing all these things, like at what point in your life did you start doing actual like personal development where you were like, okay, like, even though you didn't have your stuff together, like when you found Pruvit, were you already doing personal development? Was there a level that you were already like, I want something more in my life? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So I came into personal development about 3 years ago. I had tried and failed at another online attempt to get myself into a better situation, but it wasn't a total fail because I really did I got transferable skills out of it, but that was when personal development was introduced to me. And it was something that when I didn't understand the whole process of DMOs, it was a part of my DMOs. I would listen to a podcast on the way to work or, on my breaks, or I would just intentionally put positive things into my brain. I started to recognize things that were negative, but personal development has been present for a while. And it's not a funny story, but I look at it now and I guess I can see how it all tied together not after, actually, when I got the phone call at work from the doctor in Indiana saying, listen, you've got about 3 days until your mom's going to pass away. So we had to sorry, do we have time for me again, Tess, really quick? Okay. So, and this was significant. When I was in North Carolina and I was going to meet my sister and brother in Atlanta, I think it was, at the airport. And I was at the airport and I was a disaster, like walking down the thing, just like sobbing. People were looking at me like could not get it together. And I sat on the floor and I was listening. I don't even know how it came up, but The Secret, it was on Netflix. I literally was like, just watch Netflix or something. And I saw The Secret and I started watching it. I was sitting on the floor of the airport. And watching that, like in that 30-minute period waiting for the flight, when I watched it the whole flight on my way to meet Emily and Bobby, because I was like, I got to get it together. Like they're younger than me and I'm like already losing it. Like I got to get it together for when we go to see mom. So when I watched that, I got to Indiana in a totally different place. My head was okay. Like I knew what was coming. I knew I had to get it together, but I also knew that like there was so much love that was about to go down. Like I had to be stronger for them. I felt good about it. That was my first real touching on the law of attraction, manifestation, any of that, literally. Like I was in personal development, but not like this. And right after that, like my mom passed and it was terrible. And it was hard, and it's harder now than it was then. But that was when the law of attraction and just really putting into your head what you want out of life, that exact moment is what started all of that for me. Because there are so many times that I want to keep getting into my head about all of this. Not that, I mean, like Sylvia said, guys, trust me, this is not a beautiful every day I wake up, I'm just like, oh, I'm a Pruver today. Like there are stressful days. You're getting paid to handle a lot more conflict as your rank advancing. So, don't let that be something that's glazed over. But it really put my head in the right place. And I'm just like, if you want it, you got this. Like, if you want it, you got this. You got to understand that you're going to decide that's what you want first. And that's when personal development really started to help me. But it was a couple years ago. That was a really long answer for your question. A couple years ago, I was already.
I think that's powerful, and it's very powerful and very amazing, because you can understand how truly impacting personal development is in your life. Like she just said, that was kind of her first real dose, and it was on the way to something extremely traumatic, that people would allow to take them out. Like I know when my dad passed away, which, by the way, Katie, this is crazy because I was leaving Atlanta airport too. Like headed back to the West Coast to try to make it there in time. But I didn't have those tools at that point in my life. And it literally was, I think I went through about 1.5 years of like a very, very serious depression. Like I would lay in my bed all day crying and sobbing. And personal development didn't happen for me until several years later. And it was by the power, which is a part of The Secret. So for anybody on here who wants something, more in life, like we're not joking when we say personal development is key. Personal development can take you. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. It doesn't matter what you came from. It doesn't matter, because when you start to change the things up here, anything is possible. Anything. Like I'm telling you, anything. You're looking at a an ex-drunk. And then not only that, but like in my circle, like you're looking at somebody who went through extreme abusive situations in their childhood. So you can come from those things and create anything you guys want. But the key really is like, you have to want it. You have to be to that place where you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna sit down and put on the YouTube videos. I'm gonna get out the books and say enough is enough. Like, I'm tired of living this life and something has to change. So it's so incredibly powerful that you were able to go through such a hard thing, but like on your way there, you're literally like, okay, all right, like I can get this together, because you can have extreme, horrible circumstances in your life that you still have the ability to handle with power. Would you agree? Like with power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you one more thing, because as we were talking, I just remembered when I was like, I don't understand where The Secret came into the whole element, how that came to be. I was on Instagram and there was this girl who was an online fitness coach who was talking about in her post how The Secret was on Netflix, and oh my gosh, it's my favorite book. I was so happy. And I literally saw her post. I was like, just go find that. And I went and found it and listened. And I messaged her to let her know about it like months later, because it really, it legitimately, like, for one, I don't think security would have let me on the plane, the foreign that I was in before that, but it changed the trajectory of losing my mom. Like, the entire experience just was completely different than I think it would have been if I had not seen this girl scroll, which again is why everyone, is like, oh, she's like a social media person. Guys, because I get it. Like, there are major impactful things in my life that happen because of other people sharing things on social media. But so that's why, like, this girl was like moved by this book. And if you've read The Secret, then you know why you're moved by it. And then she shared that, and it affected someone completely in another world from her. So that's why I'm always like, you have to be transparent on social media. You have to share not just flyers. You got to share like you, because you're not just helping people, but like, from a business standpoint, it's going to bring you the people that it's supposed to bring you. I think everything really truly does happen for a reason. So if you're trying to pigeonhole yourself into something that you're not, it's not even going to help anyone. So anyway.
Be transparent, be you. Like BU always says, be you. Just be you. Share your struggles right now. Like, you don't have to be a rank 6 or a rank 7 or a rank 10 or a legend or anything to share transparently from your heart, and to share, your struggles that you're facing now and why you have hope for your future, like, where you're going. So thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your story. Thank you for always being transparent. Thank you for always contributing to our little community that we have here with Pruvit, and definitely honored to be a part of your journey and have you be a part of my journey. And I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you, guys.
Have a fabulous weekend, everybody.
It's Thursday.
Well, it's coming.
I love you. Bye, guys. Thank you, guys.